One of the things that is the saving grace, and I believe will be the future of Iran, is this radical pragmatism, this radical sense of what to do when in order for everyone's interest to be satisfied. And I spent a lot of time in Damascus, and there is a subclass of people in Damascus who are very similar. Practical, pluralistic, cosmopolitan, and they're just sitting there aghast at their regime, but having to cooperate at the same time. And there are many, many people inside Iran who are stuck in the same position. This genius of culture of Cyrus is still there. It's still there. The challenge, historically speaking, is that the great man history, the great man theory of history, is very unreliable. You know, you can have a man like Cyrus, but then you can have an Assyrian leader who comes to Israel or Palestine and he says, you know, I think I'm going to take every single group and put them exactly on the opposite land from what they come from. And that's what they used to do. They used to trade populations in order to demoralize everyone. And we know from conflict analysis research that the best way to make everyone depressed, suicidal, drunk, killing their own families, hurting their own families, is to put them on a plot of land that they don't know what to do with. I'm not talking about business people. Business people survive very well everywhere. But the average farmer, you know, you put him off his land, he goes crazy. And so they used to deliberately do this. And the Assyrians did that, the Babylonians did that. And Cyrus comes along and says, no, on the contrary, I'm going to make everyone feel exactly comfortable. And by the way, I like that coin you're using. Can you tell me more about it? You know, in other words, that radical pragmatism, honor, respect, and mutual interest in taking advantage of other opportunities. These are the foundations of conflict resolution practice at the advanced levels of the academy today. It's empathy, sympathy, honor, relational bonding. It's the pragmatism of gentle commerce, which from Immanuel Kant on, it's the embrace of the rule of law, going across cultures from Grotius and others. What Europeans and Westerners tend to not understand is that they think they own that. And they don't realize that the seeds and the nuclei of this have been there for thousands of years in many cultures. Even in eastern Syria, there was an ancient town called Dura Europos. And what impressed me about Dura Europos thousands of years ago is that it's better planned than London and Paris. It's better planned for pluralism. Because in the center of the street, you have everything mapped out, and you have 3 churches and two temples to Zeus and a synagogue, and they're all laid out geometrically. That's very different than the European cities, where basically what happened is that grudgingly, the Catholics got a space, and the Jews got a space, and this one got his, now there are mosques, and it's all very haphazard, because really it was only just supposed to be us. And thousands of years ago, right in this region, there were already a notion of purposeful pluralism, purposeful engagement with the diversity of culture. And that is the foundation of humanity. It's the foundation of progress. It's the foundation of peaceful transformation of humanity. We don't have today Cyrus types. The world isn't constructed for empires. Empires also come and go. But the fact is that our international documents, like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, like the basic notions of Bill of Rights of democratic institutions, these are our embodiments of Cyrus's ideals. This is the way in which we are institutionalizing the genius of people, of unique men in history like Cyrus, who were way ahead of their time, who were beloved by people who were even their enemies, and therefore bonded humanity in a way that humanity had never been bonded before. This is what the hope of humanity is. And the historical realities, the statistics of war and violence indicate very clearly that in the last 400 years we've been moving in the right direction, and in the last 50 years we've been moving astonishingly fast towards a less and less violent planet because of these institutions, because of the capacity to know the other, because of the rule of law across cultures and civilizations that are embodied in documents of human rights, because of these institutions that Cyrus foresaw over 2,000 years ago. The question, the agonizing question for all of us, and especially people in this room, is what about the spots that are not moving? What about the spots that have actually regressed? Because you know in statistics, you can be moving in the right direction and then you can have other spaces that are cancerous, that are moving in the wrong direction. Very bad spaces, like in Damascus right now, the tragedy unfolding there, like in the Iranian regime and so on. That's where we have to do some very serious thinking about how Cyrus got people from A to B. Certainly he was a military warrior. Certainly he was brilliant at what he did as a warrior. But he also had the vision that I've noticed once in a while. In very senior, I work constantly in Israel, and I work a lot with the Pentagon and with State Department. And you see generals and you see people in intel who really understand pluralism. They really understand that their troops and their interests are better served by really working with the others wherever possible, building alliances. And the biggest tragedy we know of in terms of Syria right now in the last year, and I'm working very closely on the ground with the opposition, is a disorganization and a lack of solidarity. Solidarity between peoples who are in opposition requires enormous tolerance, enormous acceptance of difference, in order to create that unity of purpose that really helps move civilizations to overcome small-minded people, small-minded religious fanaticism, small-minded petty corruption. All of these things stand in the way of enlightened self-interest that builds civilizations. And what we know is that nonviolent process of building solidarity among oppositions is the key to social change that's lasting. It's much more complicated to create messy alliances with this group that wants to kill for you and that group that wants to invest in this and that, because everybody in a region has their own interests, and God knows, before you know it, people are destroying your country. And I've seen this happen in Syria, I've seen this happen in Palestine, and many, many places. So what we need to do today is to really understand the genius of Cyrus, and to take that genius and make it into the kind of policies that we can adhere to that would add up to the same results: engagement with the other, standing up against things that are wrong, and at the same time creating a unity of purpose, common interests in commerce, honor whatever possible among differences, and then moving forward to catch up with the rest of history that's moving into more and more enlightened and democratic institutions. So I'm very honored to be among you. I celebrate your culture, I celebrate your country, and I can only wish, and this is coming out of my clerical role, I heard the musician talking about Hafez, who I love, and Rumi, who I love, is that I want to bless you with the kind of nonviolent future and the enlightened civilization that Iran really deserves to be as a beacon for the rest of the world. I know it's there, we all know it's there, and it's just a matter of time and unity of purpose for that to be unleashed in history and really create a revolution in the entire region that Iran finds itself in. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gopin. Sorry we kept you here so late. One more time, we're going to hear wonderful, lovely voice of Amiko and her husband, Anna. Thank you.
Hello again, sorry. Yeah, last piece is called Sweet for Peace. And for many years I was watching